Hi friends, you're watching Questing Time. I'm your host, Dungeon Master and National Treasure Paul Foxcroft, and I'm here to talk to you about Dungeons and Dragons. Dragons. I've been playing in and running role-playing games for over 20 years, and in that time, I've also become a pretty good actor and improviser. Fun fact, those are two skills that in the current economy have almost no commercial worth. Thanks 2021! So I've been thinking about how I can use my improv training to help people out with D&D, and that's why we're here. Let me ask you this. Dungeon Masters, how often has this happened to you? Hello, I am a Dungeon Master, and I am a player playing the game. Good, yes, this is how people talk. I agree, Monseigneur. You're finally at Hearthtown. The holy book that you've retrieved from the bandits is heavy in your backpack and ready to be returned to the priest like we agreed earlier. The main street stretches out ahead of you with shops on either side. A dwarf hammers on a sword in a smithy and the smell of fresh bread fills the air. At the end of the road, the temple looms. You can see the priest beckoning you forward towards your goal. He's heavily backlit and you can hear voices shouting your name from inside the temple. Right. So, you head towards the temple, and then I'd like to talk to the dwarf. For a long time. What? Hello, good Sir Dwarf. Please tell me your detailed backstory, in full. That's right, you added a new character to the description of a town as a bit of flavour, and the players now think they're the plot, or at least super interesting. So what do you do with that? You don't have ideas for this character, you've got nothing planned. You added them on a whim, and now you have to come up with content for them. In no time. Who are they? Why are they there? What do they want? How do you do that? On the fly. That's the problem. What follows is the solution, because it's a formula I've seen work in other YouTube videos. Is that plagiarism? What do we know about the character? Right now, very little. We know one thing. They're a blacksmith. Which isn't a lot, but I'm going to argue it's enough. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make a list of the most obvious, naturally assumed traits that exist in the stereotype of blacksmiths. Pick one of them, and we're going to mess with that trait and base the character off of that choice. So what this system relies on is taking the stereotype and then deliberately subverting that stereotype in a specific way. Cool? Cool. Just a quick aside before we go any further. I'm talking about stereotypes, and I am aware that some stereotypes are inappropriate, unhelpful, or actively harmful. Don't use those ones. If in doubt, don't be a racist. Our system is this. We look at the stereotype of a role that the character has. We pick out 3 or 4 traits of that stereotype, and then we mess with one of those traits using a system that I call opposite, arbitrary, and extreme. So let's look at how we'd make a character with those, and we'll do them one at a time. Let's start with opposites. So, for whatever reason, we need to improvise a dentist character in our stream. Maybe the players have been bundling through a hospital, they found a dentist's office, I don't know. This is an example, it's not well thought out. Where we start is, we look at dentists as an ideal. What traits do we identify with the archetypal, generic, off-the-rack, hack-writing dentist stereotype? Well, clean, first one that comes to mind. Efficient, maybe? And sadism. Right? They like causing pain. Those will do. They're not accurate, but they'll do. What we now do is we pick one of those traits and we apply the first of our systems to it, which is opposite. So, what's the opposite of clean? Well, filthy. A disgusting dentist. If you have a dentist whose notable trait is that they are very, very not up on their surgical hygiene. They never clean their tools, they never wash their hands, they probably pick their nose, they cough a lot, I should imagine. They don't wear face masks, and so on, then that becomes a thing that will differentiate that dentist character from all the others. It doesn't have to be the be-all and end-all of their character, and if you play the character longer, you can explore it more, but if you need an off-the-rack character that's different, right now, it'll do. Efficient. What's the opposite of efficient? Well, long-winded. What if this dentist is just very slow? Or has elaborate procedures they go through before they do any number of operations? Or just talk a lot about one thing without really saying anything new? Any one of those is a reasonable choice. I wouldn't do all 3. One's enough. What was the last trait we had? Oh yeah, sadism. The idea that dentists like causing pain, like Steve Martin's character in Little Shop of Horrors. Watch Little Shop, it's great. The opposite of that would be a dentist who is terrified of causing pain. Horrified at the idea they might have made somebody upset or sad. Maybe they faint at the sight of blood. Maybe they can't even bear to look when they're doing dentistry. Those are pretty big moves, but you could have them subtly or big. It depends on what kind of game you want to play. My point is you have at least 3 distinct character choices right there off of dentist. Okay? And that's how opposite works. Okay, our second system for differentiating characters is extreme. Okay, unsurprisingly, we'll take one of the traits associated with a stereotype and turn it up to 11. Let's move our example a little nearer D&D. Let's say your players were fighting a bunch of, I don't know, cultists, and you expected them to kill all of them, and they've made a point of capturing one to interrogate them. Okay. Now this is great for you because it means you can drip feed in some clues that maybe the players have missed earlier on, or you can do some foreshadowing. It gives you an opportunity to get information dumps to the players, but you don't have a character plan for this guy. So, the stereotype of D&D cultist. What are the traits we associate with that? How about fanatical? Ooh, credulous, and clandestine. Sneaky. So again, what we do here is we pick one of those traits, plug it into our system, in this case extreme. So all we do then is turn the trait up to over 9,000. Full disclosure, I'm 41, I don't really understand that meme. I don't even know if I've used it correctly there. So, our first trait is fanatical, right? Feverishly devoted to the cause of the cult. Okay, well let's turn that up as high as we can. What does that look like in terms of behaviour? I mean, any fanatic can not fear death. What if this fanatic starts trying to persuade the characters to kill them out using cold logic? Ooh, or actively tries to convert the characters to their cause. After all, they believe so fervently in their cult, why wouldn't other people want to be a member? If they're credulous enough to have joined a cult, then let's turn up their credulity. Pretty sure that's how it's pronounced. If they're so easily swayed, maybe the players having defeated the other cultists mean that they immediately swear fealty to the players and decide to worship them as gods. That'd be interesting. If they're full tilt clandestine, then maybe they talk in an inscrutable code. Or maybe they spend a lot of their time lying to the players about fundamental, boring things that when they do tell the truth, it just looks like lies and the information is dismissed. These are only options, but each one will give you a unique character in almost no time. Now, our last system is arbitrary, which is the broadest one, because it involves taking something that has nothing to do with the character's traits and adding that into the mix. Let's do 3 examples real quick. Let's say in the background text of the town, you've mentioned there's a wizard's tower. The players have gone there to talk to the wizard. You never thought that was going to happen. You've got nothing planned. The players have also decided to quiz one of the town guards about something. You've got information the guard can give them, but no character planned. And your druid has almost invariably stopped to talk to a bird for no reason. So your players have gone to visit this wizard. They've given you no warning, and you pull a character out of a hat, a generic wizard. She's bookish, condescending, and curmudgeonly. Like early Gandalf vibes. But you want to add a secondary trait to make her stand out a bit, give her some uniqueness. Okay, Wikipedia's random article function has just landed me on the used car page. So, what if, in addition to being a wizard, our wizard happens to own a couple of second-hand horses? Horses are D&D for cars. So in addition to being a mistress of the arcane arts, she's really trying to shift a couple of second-hand horses, and the players have just turned up for no good reason. Her main objective is selling horses to the players. Then the players have decided to quiz a town guard. What does the generic town guard look like? Stoic, overworked, by the book. Those are reasonable traits. Okay. Genuinely, just now, I've had a text from a former colleague telling me that she's just watched me in Ted Lasso. I'm in 1 episode of that on Apple Plus. But as that's a sports show, why don't we make our town guard a big sports fan? Now, I don't know what kind of sports are available in your D&D setting, but it isn't that hard to rebrand, wrestling, football, soccer, or cricket, whatever that is. I don't know anything about cricket, and I live about a 20-minute walk from the Oval. I'm barely English. Maybe the guard has a favourite team they keep talking about. Maybe they've just got money on the game coming up and they want to talk about it. Or maybe they've lost money recently on the game and they're really grumpy about that. You've got options. And last, a bird. Why do players do this? Your druid, or maybe a ranger, has used Speak with Animals and cast it on a random bird. You had nothing planned, because who plans out the animals? Well, what are the standard traits of a bird? Food obsessed, slightly twitchy because paranoid of predators, stuff like that. We can add an extra layer on top of that. I just looked around the room and saw books and went, oh yeah, books will do, which was actually Amazon.com's original business plan. Okay, so the bird gets to be obsessed with the knowledge that people have, specifically the knowledge that's locked in books. Perhaps the bird wants the players to read to it, or teach it to read, or just tell it secrets from some of the pages. It doesn't really have to understand books to be interested in them. And already, you've got a bird that players are more likely to remember. You can also use this system to help out with player character generation as well. If you or your players feel like one of the characters is a little stale, you can just look at the list of their traits, pick one, make it an opposite, make it extreme, or add an arbitrary thing on the top of it. It won't be the entire character, but it'll be a good starting point. Maybe your rogue is anti-crime. They just don't think it's right. Maybe your cleric is a zealot and so committed to the cause that they refuse to kill enemies until they've had a chance to convert them. Maybe your paladin is questing not only for justice, but for the ability to make the perfect omelette, which is made with 2 eggs, not 3. Amateurs often add milk for density. This is a mistake. Deep Blue Sea is the greatest film of all time. Change my mind! That's it. This is finished. I hope this was helpful, and I hope that I edit it together well. Although, who knows at this point. Let me know if you've made any interesting character choices in the comments. Let me know if this has helped, and if you'd like more stuff like this. If you have any specific questions, whack them in the comments, and I'll get to them in good time. Other than that, please keep hanging around on the channel. Like and subscribe if you haven't, because it really helps us out. Thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. That's also very useful for the algorithm, who we must obey. Alexa, stop YouTube.